let's talk a little bit about another one of our favorite businesses here, Square. And we saw last week that there's this potential, at least, where Credit Karma is in talks to sell its tax preparation business to Square. And I think part of this was a deal in order to avoid any antitrust concerns with another dynamic of this deal that doesn't involve Square. Um, but I don't know. We were talking about this morning. I don't know if you had a chance to read through. There was an article this weekend on the Wall Street Journal that talked about Jack Dorsey, who's the CEO of Square and Twitter, and talked at length about his management style. And in particular, he's got a very hands-off management style, which seems to be totally plausible given that he's running two major, multi-billion dollar corporations. But it does sound like there's the potential where, maybe he's a little bit too hands-off in some cases. And I think we could argue that Twitter is maybe not benefiting from close enough, eyes on what's going on there. But at what point, I mean, with Square, it seems like they're going in a lot of different directions. And I'm not going to say I'm concerned with this at all, but is there a point, should we at least start becoming a little bit concerned with Square appearing to spread itself too thin?
Well, first of all, I'm not concerned with Dorsey's management style at Twitter because I don't own that stock. So selfishly, I don't really care.
Neither do I. That makes sense.
I think Square, no, and in all seriousness, I think Square is the higher potential business of the two. So I think that's where his effort should be focused.
I agree. Totally.
But Dorsey's management style reminds me a lot of Warren Buffett's. And hear me out here. Warren Buffett has said, what we try to do is find the 400 hitters and then not teach them how to swing. And that's kind of what Dorsey does. He hires, a rock star CFO. He had Sarah Friar. Square's new current CFO is doing phenomenal in her role. So he tends to subscribe to that Warren Buffett mindset of I'm going to find the best people possible and then not tell them how to do their jobs, which is a great management style.
It can be.
But so if you're not familiar, Credit Karma, which we never get a chance to talk about because technically they're one of our competitors in a lot of ways, and we don't really talk about our competitors that much. But Credit Karma is being acquired by Intuit, which is the parent company of TurboTax. So as a regulatory concern, Credit Karma, their tax preparation is not their primary business. So they really don't care about getting rid of it. The fact that Square is buying it kind of fits into, I mentioned Sarah Friar, it fits into her kind of mindset that she wanted Cash App to be able to do for people whatever their banks can do.
Yeah.
So her vision was to have checking accounts, personal loans, insurance products, mortgages, auto loans, the whole 9 yards. And tax preparation is a pretty natural fit in that.
Mm-hmm.
The concern is whether Square's getting into too many different growth verticals at the same time.
Yeah.
We know, and we've talked about Jack Dorsey's love affair with Bitcoin, which, as I've said before, is my least favorite part of Square. But there's Square's trying to build out an online store right now. Their brokerage is just getting going, really.
Yeah.
You remember they launched the ability to trade stocks on Cash App. So, and they're applying for a banking charter at the same time, and maybe going to do personal lending through the Cash App. Who knows? So the question is, should they their businesses that they have now are growing at phenomenal rates, 40-50% revenue growth a year. Should they just focus on keeping those growing for the time being? Or should they spread their focus out into even more verticals while everything's going so well? And that's kind of the big question. Tax planning is not a core competency of Square. It's not going to be a core competency of Square. But the question is, does that make Cash App more valuable to people and therefore boost membership and boost monetization, things like that? So I'm curious to know where you stand on that. But I would be in favor of this move as long as it was for a reasonable sum of money.
Yeah, I think you probably hit on the point I would have mentioned would be, price to me is everything here. Like as long as they're getting a fair price and they're not out there trying to outbid someone else for this, because I I do feel like I'm getting a little concerned. Just in are they pursuing too many verticals at once versus not really, just focusing on doing a couple of things really well right now. And I can see the merits to both. We can see examples throughout history of it working out both ways too. So then when it comes to his management style, it really just boils down to making sure that you're hiring good people. And I think he tends to do that, right? He's even said before, I mean, that he sees that as his primary role is basically finding the talent to help run these businesses and then letting them do their thing. And so hopefully that does work out the way it's worked out for Buffett and Munger through the years over at Berkshire Hathaway. I certainly like the markets they're pursuing. It's not like they're like, remember when they got rid of caviar, right? Remember they got rid of caviar, the food delivery business. I mean, that to me was that was a perfect example of a business that just wasn't really in line with the rest of the stuff they were doing. The tax business could be. I don't know what kind of traction it'll gain, but certainly it made me think about that bigger question of, all right, let's make sure these guys aren't trying to do too many things at once, because that can really be difficult sometimes. Yeah, just something to keep in mind, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it needs to be for a reasonable price, and it needs to add value to the business. And the difference between caviar and this, Square wants all their businesses to now fall into two very distinct baskets. Does this help people with personal finance? Does it help with small business finance? Caviar doesn't really fit into either of those.
Yeah.
But tax preparation definitely fits into the personal finance basket. So that's why it makes a little more sense than a caviar type business. But like I said, it has to be for the right price. I can't imagine credit cards tax prep business is a giant moneymaker at this point.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, TurboTax is just, they really do own that market in a lot of ways too. So, but it can be sticky. It can be sticky. So if they do it right, who knows? They definitely, Jack has a good long-term focus, and I really like that about him. And so I remain a very happy shareholder, and I'm sure you do too.